Hi, I'm Sean L. McCarthy, founding editor of The Comics Comic, found wherever you can type The Comics Comic into your electronic devices. Welcome to Last Things First, the show that asks comedians about the historic lasts and firsts in their lives as their comedy careers have blossomed, from young people with dreams to adult people living those dreams, or still dreaming. Questions both big and small are asked and answered. It's hopefully both amusing and illuminating. Mark Feuerstein co-created, produces, and stars in the new CBS sitcom 9JKL, which is loosely based on his real-life experience moving back to New York City to live next to his parents and brother while starring for 8 seasons on the USA drama Royal Pains. Feuerstein began acting as a student and classmate of mine at Princeton University, and after winning a Fulbright scholarship, found early success in Hollywood, scoring network TV roles in Caroline in the City, Fired Up, Conrad Bloom, and Good Morning Miami. He's also co-starred on the big screen with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock in Practical Magic, with Albert Brooks in The Muse, with Mel Gibson in What Women Want, and with Penelope Cruz in Woman on Top. He also appeared in 2017 on the new installments of both Prison Break and Wet Hot American Summer. There's a lot of catching up to do, so let's get to it! So, Mark Feuerstein, last things first. When was the last time you busted a move?
Bust a move. You're reminding me of that band that we all went to see.
Well, Bust a Move was our theme song as the lightweight football players championships.
I'm thinking of a band that Kevin Friedman and I used to go to Friedman to dance, but I forgot what it was called. But Bust a Move, Mark Tranchina, so many great guys on that team.
When was the last time? Okay, here. When was the last time you had to explain lightweight football to somebody?
I think I probably drop in that to my son even recently, like maybe a month ago. He asked me if I played football in college, and I said yes, I did. And he was like, "You played football in college, like the games that are on TV?" And I'm like, "Well, not exactly. Maybe in a small section of Pittsfield, Pennsylvania, when we played in the Anthracite Bowl."
Oh yes, the Anthracite Bowl.
What a wonderful bowl name that is, Anthracite, for a coal town.
Yeah, coal's coming back.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But not that often.
No.
And I have to say, it was one of the this is an amazing thing about life, because I'm now trying to find a school for my daughter, and we're, looking at various private schools here in LA. And I remember one of the few reasons why I loved Princeton was the lightweight football team, because I played football in high school. I've always loved playing football. I played tackle football when I was in 4th grade. And I thought, that's going to be how I identify myself on campus, is I'm a football player. It's how I was a jock in high school. And there I am, freshman year, playing lightweight football, a little fish in a big pond now. Scott Farmer is a much better linebacker than I am.
Scott Farmer, yeah.
And
he stuck around the team longer than we did, too.
Well, yeah, because when you're good at something, they keep you. And when you're not, it's not as exciting to be there.
Right.
I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better freshman year performance by our team. And maybe if we'd been worse, I would have played more.
Right.
But I remember beating Army in the Anthracite Bowl. I remember losing to Penn and Tranchina taking his helmet. As we start, like Rob Kellner made somebody laugh, and we were laughing a little bit after having lost. And Tranchina took his helmet, whipped it across the locker room. It dented a locker, and then he said, "Screw a team that takes losing lightly."
Oh, yeah.
And we all just froze. And that guy was just such a great leader and
he
such
was
a great
the reason
football
we won.
player. Yeah. Yeah, he was an inspiration to all of us, and he was so good.
And they had to cancel the program after we left.
Right. Is it canceled now?
Yeah. It's canceled.
Because, I mean, even in the last few years, I've gotten emails.
We've raised money, and there's...
You've helped?
Yeah.
Raise money?
Actually, I met Tranchina at a function they had in New York City a couple of years ago.
Oh, my God.
He's bald, but he's still the same.
Is he running, like, steakhouses in Staten Island?
No.
What does he do?
I forget.
I thought that's what he was going to do. He's like, his family went into restaurants, a chain. I mean, he was an engineer, but
Tranch, if you're listening, you should open up a steakhouse in Staten Island. It's your destiny.
Exactly.
But it's funny because we both of us kind of ended up at this hallowed institution playing this random obscure sport. And it propelled us into these different avenues that we probably didn't imagine.
Right.
Like I ended up being a journalist. You're an actor. Although when we first arrived on campus, one of the most often questions there ever was from other people was, did you know Brooke Shields?
Right.
So even though everybody went into Wall Street or banking or politics, people want to know about Brooke Shields. So acting was not that obscure of a choice, was it?
No, I mean, we have some famous alums from Brooke Shields to Dean Cain to David E. Kelly to even now Alex Ganza, who created Homeland.
Okay. David Duchovny.
David Duchovny. I mean, there's always been a sort of glitterati of Princetonians. But to go into Princeton thinking I would be in the Woodrow Wilson School of International Relations, thinking I would be a football player and a member of the Zeta Psi fraternity, which many of our colleagues on the football team were, and then to just completely do a 180 and become a thespian and do 15 plays at school over the course of those 4 years, quit the football team, quit being a pledge at Zeta Psi, and follow this path, which I have followed into realms that my parents loved from afar but never would have thought to be a part of, and now suddenly they are the subject of a TV show I'm doing,
right? So
which is very surreal.
It all comes around.
Yeah, it did.
9JKL.
Exactly.
But at the time, freshman to sophomore year, did it feel like a hard left turn that you were making, or did it seem like the natural progression of your interests?
It did feel like a hard left turn. I mean, there I was doing this play Orphans at Theater On Team and hanging with guys like Josh Klausner and Eugene Jarecki, who were so interesting and cool. And I'd always been a fan of literature and poetry. It had always been in my system, but funny enough, I was better at math and the sciences as a student in high school.
So was I.
I was not as great with thematics and story and analyzing a poem, but I loved that more. And so I guess I have to give myself some props for going into something unlike football, which I quit because eventually I was not good enough to play. Right. I stayed with something where I may not have been the best English student in my precept classes at Princeton. I remember Dave Boudel was so smart when we were discussing the canon of British literature.
He was one of a few twins we had.
Yeah, Dave and Pete Boudel.
Yeah.
Terrific guy and such a great mind. And I remember being in Natasha Rosenfeld's precept class for some lecture course, like maybe basic English 201. And Dave was just so interesting and dark, and he was like Christian Slater in Heathers. He so understood the literature we were discussing, and I always felt a little bit of a step behind, but maybe it was being able to take stuff off the page and put it into action on the stage that made all of that feel more palpable for me and more immediate and more discernible, so that suddenly the stuff I loved of poetry and plays and literature became more authentic.
Did you know with that first play, Orphans, that you were going to take the leap of a lifetime? Or did it take another couple of productions?
I didn't know. And, when you look back on your life and you see kind of the randomness of the decisions you make, and then you think about how they couldn't have been any other decision, you're just amazed by this process that we call life. I mean, how did I get to Princeton? I liked the people who went to Princeton from my high school. I liked that they had a football team. and I felt that at Harvard I would be nervous and pressured, and so I didn't go for it, even though the wrestling coach at the Harvard said maybe I could get you in. I didn't want to owe him 4 years of my life to wrestle, which bears no fruit in life whatsoever. So there I was at Princeton and thinking I'd be a lawyer and building a good resume, and then I just auditioned for a play, and then I'm hanging with these guys like Eugene and Josh and doing Henry IV in the chapel at Princeton with our friend Raul Bhavnani and not Ryan McDonough, but Jeff Glass. Mm-hmm. And then I'm at a program in Oxford studying acting after my sophomore year, and it's becoming more and more serious. And I'm directing Chekhov at the Student Theater my junior year and writing a junior paper on that. And then senior year, I'm playing Stanley Kowalski, and I'm thinking about going to drama school. And Michael Cadden tells me to apply for a Fulbright, and I get one. And so because I didn't get into Yale or NYU or ART, I'm going to London for free on the government for a year to study at Lambda, and suddenly I'm doing this.
Right.
And it's those moments that all like a constellation just come together, and that's your life. But no, there was no moment where freshman year I go, oh, I really like smoking a cigarette on stage and telling this story about brothers and a surrogate father figure, orphans, and talking in this dead-end kid accent and crying on stage at the end because we lost our father and never really had one. But I was touched by that in some deep way, and I stayed with it.
Now, I remember that you had gotten serious into acting before graduation, but I didn't remember until I went back and looked that you were in a pretty big production off campus at McCarter while still a student.
Yeah, that was a really lucky thing. And
How did you get?
It was only because the program of theater and dance at 185 Nassau had made an alliance with Emily Mann at the McCarter, and some sign-up sheets went up on the wall to be an intern at the McCarter for their production of Three Sisters over Christmas break.
And McCarter is a well-known...
It's a great regional theater in Princeton. And I didn't think anything of missing my Christmas vacation because my parents didn't have plans to go away. We weren't doing anything special.
And you're from New York City.
I'm from New York City. It's an hour and a half away.
Right.
So screw it. I'll give them my Christmas vacation. And I saw that the cast was insane. I mean, they had, and I'm going to walk you through these parts, even though you may not know or care.
About Three Sisters?
Of Three Sisters. But playing Natasha was Laura San Giacomo. Playing Masha was Frances McDormand. Playing Olga was Linda Hunt. Playing Irina was Mary Stuart Masterson. Playing Chibudikin, the old guy, was Joseph Summer. Playing Andre was Paul McCrane from Fame and from ER. Mark Nelson, a great New York theater actor, was playing Baron von Tusenbach. They had Edward Herrmann, who was a great actor. And I'm wondering if so those were amazing actors. And to get to watch Frances McDormand every day, and then 10 times in a row in one rehearsal, break down sobbing when the Colonel Vershinin is leaving for war, and her, she's fallen in love with him, and they've had this affair, and she's beside herself because her life is no longer going to have meaning without him there, and the Russians and meaning and life and existence. And then Emily Mann threw me a bone, and I played Skvortsov, a part that no one's ever heard of because they barely refer to him when his name is Peter Francis James, played Solioni, another amazing New York theater actor. And you see the soldiers going off to the duel between Solioni and I believe it's Tusenbach, who he kills. And a soldier walks across the stage and goes, "Nazdrovya!" That was me. That was Skvortsov. And the only way you notice, Solioni goes, yes, that's Skvortsov in the boat. And that's how we knew my character's name.
So obviously this was very important because your recall is
Thank you. Well, it's a great play that I already studied very hard in my program at Oxford. But to get to do that, like the timing of that was so uncanny that I had just been exposed to Chekhov that summer before, had just directed The Cherry Orchard, and then I get to watch these pros do Three Sisters. It was like, crack for a theater geek, which I became at that time.
So coming off the Fulbright, did you have that eternal debate that goes on with an actor about whether to go New York City or Hollywood?
Not really. I didn't think of L.A. I had no awareness of L.A. when I graduated from Princeton. I went to London, studied for a year, had the most amazing year studying with voice teachers and movement teachers, and then studying clowning with this French clown teacher in London who was incredible.
Have you watched any of Baskets on FX?
I watched a little of it. I want to get into it more than I am.
Right.
But
for the clowning.
Yeah, no, I know. For the clowning, this clown teacher I had was so much funnier to me than that show. He was so brilliant. Anyway, I came back to New York, and I just wanted to work in the theater. I mean, the funny thing about becoming an actor is you're so addicted to the rush of performance and storytelling. You don't think, I need to be George Clooney or Matt Damon tomorrow. You think, I just want to be in this business, especially if you're someone like me has never been a part of a family that did anything related to the entertainment industry. Like, we knew some crappy producers as family friends. So all I wanted was to work in the theater, to play character-y roles, third wheel, fifth wheel, seventh wheel.
But to have that live audience, though.
Just to be on stage and tell great stories and be part of... And I got to do that at first. I got to be a really crappy part in a production of Macbeth at the Classic Stage Company, where I was rolling around the floor. I was a dark horse of the apocalypse, a role that even Shakespeare did not think of, and was added to the play. And then I got a part as a scribe in a regional production of a Dybbuk by Tony Kushner, he had adapted it. And I was playing the scribe, and I was yelling out my Haftorah portion from my bar mitzvah as lines in the play because I was possessed, just going, Vayishlach Yoshua bin Nun min hashitim shnayim et hashim, as I'm like rolling across the floor because I'm possessed.
But they were lines from your actual bar mitzvah.
Yes, they were. And so that was New York, and I was just doing whatever I could, and then I got an audition. Oh, I went to do a play in San Francisco.
Okay.
At the American Conservatory Theater with Carrie Perloff, who's a wonderful director, and she runs that theater. And I was driving down to L.A. every Monday, which is our day off, and meeting whoever would meet with me. Every Monday it was just like, can you set me up with anybody? And I had an agent, which was very lucky and fortunate that I only got because my father called his allergist's niece, Joy Weber, a casting director of Wendy's commercials, and said, "Oh, I got Alec Baldwin's voice in my office. You should do voiceovers." And she sent me to two voiceover agents, and I parlayed one of them into legitimate representation for film theater.
Was it with that voice? The allergist's niece?
This was the voiceover I did maybe 20 years ago. Miller Genuine Draft. For those who've discovered its smooth draft taste, the world's a very cool place. Don't you just want a nice beer right now?
Makes me sad I quit drinking.
Yeah.
But
you and me both, buddy.
So you're going down to L.A. on the dark Mondays.
On the dark days, I'm going down to L.A., and I met producers of a sitcom called Fired Up. It was with Sharon Lawrence and Leah Remini. We lived in a clock tower.
Wait, when was Caroline in the City? Was that
that was the first thing that was actually on TV.
Yeah.
But I got Fired Up first.
Oh,
and
okay.
Jimmy Burrows, who's a legend of TV directing, he directed me in Fired Up, and then he brought me over to Caroline in the City to play her new young boyfriend.
Right.
I mean, that was a time where Jimmy could just like offer me that role, and so suddenly I had a recurring gig on Caroline, a show that's already on TV,
Right, network primetime.
and then I'm in training for my show where I'm a regular,
Right.
coming up mid-season that year in February. It was a pretty great.
So was the part on Caroline, was that Jimmy's idea to like get audiences familiar with you, so that way when Fired Up started, be like, oh yeah, that guy's in
I
this
don't
show.
even know if he was thinking that far ahead. I think they just needed a good boyfriend for Caroline, and I was the guy. And what's
How many
weird
times
is,
had you watched Back to the Future?
right, Leah Thompson.
Yeah.
I just saw her.
And her daughter's in the business too.
Yeah, both of them. She has two girls. One of them is the star of that most recent film. Was it a Judd Apatow movie?
Yeah, that was somebody else's daughter. Anyhow.
Deutsch. Her name is
Yeah,
Deutsch
okay.
because Leah's married to Howie Deutsch. But her other daughter apparently is a talented writer. I saw her at the opening of a new show at the Amundsen Theater called Bright Star, Steve Martin's musical with Edie
nice.
Brickell, and it was so nice to see her. And it's crazy that I'm doing a sitcom now because I did Caroline in the City, Fired Up. I did Conrad Bloom with the creator of Caroline,
Bloom.
Marco Panett.
And then Good Morning Miami.
And then Good Morning Miami was a few years later, but somewhere in the middle of my career, with the creators of Will and Grace, who are now having a lovely success with the revival
Of Will and Grace.
of Will and Grace. And here I am again, and the sitcom is such a mysterious beast. I mean, you would not think in watching a sitcom that it was nearly as hard as it is to make one. You'd think the cooler single camera shows on Netflix, even on network television, are more difficult and challenging than a freaking sitcom, which looks just so kind of bare bones and simple
By
on
the
TV.
numbers.
But because of the rewriting process, it is more challenging than any other format, certainly for writers. Actors have a pretty cushy life.
Well, you're a multicam too, so you're in front of an audience.
It's not just the pressure of being in front of an audience, but to have to be funny every other line or every two lines. There's no room for like, oh, it's just interesting because we get to know Sean McCarthy right here. I want to know about why he chose that outfit and who he is and how he got here. We don't have time for that. We need to make the audience laugh right now.
About Mark's inability to have a one-night stand.
Yes, exactly.
How do we turn that into a
How do we
recurring laugh
cash in
line
on
for
that?
22 minutes?
Yeah. So and my wife is running the show, and I'm helping her by being involved in every other aspect, from editing to the cast. We do it together, and it's pretty amazing that we get to do this. But it's challenging. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm yawning. I was up at 5 a.m. doing radio interviews across, the country to promote our show. It's just, it never ends. You got to keep pushing until.
Right, because this is the 1 week that you're not taping, so you.
This is our hiatus week. So we're supposed to be relaxing in this week, but it's not relaxed at all because we're about to dive back into production on Wednesday, and we have to have a script for Wednesday's table read, and then we have to have a script for the next week, which is still in the making, and then we have a script after that, and that's the 3 last scripts we have until CBS officially picks us up for more.
For the back 9.
They've picked us up for 3 scripts to say, we like where you're at, and we think we're going to make more of you, but we don't know for sure.
That's got to be a much different feeling than your last show, Royal Pains. Where,
It is. It's very different.
Where you're on USA and they're just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's keep going.
That's correct. That's what it was like on USA. We were one of their staples for so long. There were moments where we didn't know we'd come back. We didn't know we'd get picked up for seasons 5 and 6. So there was a lot of Sturm und Drang and campaigning and figuring it out and selling that we could balance the budget and make it cheaper. And then we got picked up for 5 and 6, and then we had to do even more of that, like budget maintenance analysis for seasons 7 and 8, but we were just reliable enough for the network that we got 8 seasons out of it, and that's a miracle. I mean, that's the holy grail. And it was heaven to make that show. I mean, they're all like my brothers in arms, the actors and sisters, the crew, the writers, the cast. I loved everybody.
And that's when you were living in the building with your...
That's when I was living in apartment 9K, and my parents were in 9J, and my brother was in 9L with his wife and baby. And after sharing with enough people that I'm living the life of a sitcom, we decided to make one about it.
Now, having been through the gauntlet of sitcoms in the mid-late 90s, does that make it any easier for you to deal with this uncertainty right now about where it's going to go?
Right.
Because you've been through it before. You know.
You know, what makes it a little easier, to be honest, is how hard it is. It's really rewarding to create a show and see it on the air. And I mentioned I went to that show. I took my daughter to see this Steve Martin show, Bright Star, on Thursday night, and all these people come up to me and say, "We love 9JKL. We're loving it. We're loving it. We can't wait to see the next one." And to know that I was part of creating that, to know that it's loosely based on my family, and to get that approval and validation is very rewarding. And the idea that we could have created something that will be a part of the canon of TV history is amazing and could be a dream. But the rigor of creating by committee and marshaling all the forces that have to come together, from post-production to the writer's room to our producers who have a lot of say in what we do, it's grueling. And so, you know, there's a little part of both my wife even more so, but me too, of like, well, if it all came to a screeching halt, I'd be okay. I'd figure out my next move. This would be I'd be in TV prison for at least a couple of years or a year or something, and we'd figure out the next move. But to have built this for the 100 people who are on our crew, for our writers, our executives, our cast, I would love this thing to go because it's a great family. It really is a good show. I believe in it. I believe the bones are there for many, many great stories in the years to come. Because it's so believable and authentic and grounded in my real life stuff and my wife's real life stuff, there's a lot of stories to tell. And I hope we get to tell them. But, you know, you just never know.
Right. But obviously, like you're just saying, you have a different emotional attachment because it is your show.
Yes.
You're not just you're not a main character, recurring, or star of the show. It's your show. And it's based on your life.
And just to get the back 9 episodes picked up, or to get a season 2, I mean, just to know that it's like Rocky, you know, to know that you went the distance. And to me, this has been like this crazy experiment me and my wife took on, and we've jumped through every hoop. I mean, there are so many hoops. You have to pitch the show to network executives. Then you have to, when you sell it, you have to write the script. And then you have to get that script picked up to be made. Then you cast it, and you make a show, which is already through the eye of a needle.
Right.
And then
the whole pilot season is
it's insane. And then you get picked up to be put on the air, the Holy Grail. And then you maybe get as much promotion as you want, or in most cases, a little less than you want.
Depending on the time slot they give you.
Depending on the time slot, which is a great time slot, but it's a blessing and a curse to be after Big Bang Theory. It's amazing because we get so many viewers, but it's also like we drop, 55%. We keep 55% of their audience. And so that can be hard. But I've looked at every hoop like, you know what? This is this crazy experiment. So let's see if we get through the next one. Let's just see. Take a wait and see attitude, and the universe will decide what's meant to be. And we just sorry.
Who has been kind of the best in terms of keeping you on the beam through this whole process? your wife, or has it been outside people who have been through it before and are like, Mark, here's what you need to know, here's what you need to keep in mind? Who keeps you steady through this?
It's honestly hard. There's not any... Dana, my wife, who's amazing, doesn't really have the bandwidth to worry about my equilibrium. I worry a little more about hers because she's working so freaking hard. And she's here till 2 in the morning. I'm here till sometimes 8, sometimes 2 in the morning. But she's always here till 2 in the morning if that's how late the writer's room is going. Maybe 12:30 or 1, but I can go home and put the kids to bed on a Wednesday and a Thursday, and maybe I'll stay late on a Friday. She's here late every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, and then we shoot Monday, Tuesday. So I'm actually, as you mentioned, this is our one hiatus week. So tonight I'm going to my therapist for the first time in like months and months. Who, by the way, wasn't able to text me when the show premiered, so I'm about to give her a big lump of shit when I see her.
So this is the pre-therapy session right now?
Yes, I'm getting some of it off my chest now. That should be a little awkward, but she needs to hear it.
You know, before I let you go, I wanted to make sure that I asked you about... Lazy Monday?
Oh my God. Dude, you made my day just by bringing it up.
Because I was still a newspaper reporter at the time, and I remember Lazy Sunday, the Saturday Night Live short video that blew up. And then the next day I see this video, and it's got Mark Feuerstein in it.
Yep.
Doing a rap response video, and I'm like, what is this? Mark raps? What is going on? I don't think... Had there been response videos?
You know, it's so funny you said that. There had not been.
Yeah.
We were the first... We were in Shots Almanac. An almanac... I don't know if you follow almanacs. It's not even... I don't even know if it's the best almanac.
Compared to the Farmers?
Right. Yeah, maybe they're like living in the shadow of Farmer's Almanac. But in Shots Almanac, we were listed as the first ever responsive video. And... you know, I loved making that so much with my friends Adam Stein and Sam Friedlander. Yo, Samberg. Yo, Chris Parnell. You think you both so bad because you on SNL. Now that Narnia's done, we like to boast how we spend a lazy day out on the West Coast. Yo, Stein. What's up for you, Steve? Let's rock an ice blended at the Coffee Bean. I mean, I remember being in my buddy Sam's house in Santa Monica when we were just laying that shit down.
But how and why did that come together in the first place?
Because we all loved the Chronicles of Narnia, you know, Lazy Sunday video. We thought it was amazing. We all love rap and hip-hop. I've always fancied myself like having more soul than I actually do. And we thought, how funny would it be if, like they're on the East Coast... we had our own West Coast rap battle back to the East Coast guys.
Right.
And so we wrote it, and we just started writing and writing and writing, and then we laid it down in Sam's closet, which we used as a sound booth.
Okay.
And then we shot it all over Santa Monica.
What'd you use to shoot? What was the technology back then?
I think it was like a Panasonic, whatever is the prosumer level camera. I mean, it wasn't very big. It wasn't like an Alexa or something like that. It was just, you know, the kind you could get at B&H Video for probably $1,000.
External mics or no?
Yep, external. Well, we didn't really need mics because we pre-recorded the song.
So you were just lip syncing like a music video.
Exactly. But we shot it, you know, on the beach, under the boardwalk in Santa Monica. We got those bikes, and we rented a buddy's bikes and rode them, you know, in a serpentine way, back and forth. And I remember, thanks to my manager, I sent it directly to SNL, and we never heard back. But I've had a moment with Andy Samberg at an airport where I told him, hey, man, I just wanted you to know we made, like, a response to your thing. And he's like, oh, yeah. I don't think he really was at all aware of it. But there were, like, so many responses afterwards. There was like, guys in Cambridge wrote about tea, motherfucker, tea. They rapped about tea, and then there was soldiers on a tank in Ramadi called Lazy Ramadi, and they did a whole rap from a tank, in the Persian Gulf. So it had a cool, response.
Yeah,
it was mostly all of us on the coattails of Andy Samberg and Chris Parnell. But it was great, and I love that you brought it up. And just sorry to talk longer about something that could have been a much shorter answer, which is my way, as you can tell. I do want to say that things like Lazy Monday are those passion projects. I mean, I know it's not like we're talking about saving children or world hunger. We're talking about a stupid rap video, but those are the things that I love, that I got into the business to make, in terms of having fun performing and creating, where I get to be creative myself and I don't have to rely on the powers that be to tell me what to make. And, we made webisodes after that, me and my buddies Sam and Adam. We made something called The Hustler, which was 13 webisodes on Crackle years ago.
Oh, wow, okay.
And then we pitched TV shows as a group that didn't really go anywhere. But the stuff I've done with them has been some of the most rewarding. And when I decided to start directing, I directed a video. Oh, The Hustler was based on a video called Pinata Hustler, about a girl's 9-year-old birthday party, and a guy comes on a motorcycle and crashes it and destroys the pinata and steals all the candy.
Oh, man.
And I played that guy, and that was The Hustler. But I try to never lose sight of the fun of creation, even if you're not doing it for a network like USA or CBS, just to go make something with your buddies, because you can now with the cameras they have, is so rewarding. Recently on this show, we tried to make some webisodes.
Okay.
But because we're on CBS and they're so tight about what you can put out on the web.
Especially since now they have CBS All Access.
Yeah. I mean, they were just not that into our webisodes. They were probably just not that funny, which is what our executive producers would say. But it was a little bit of a bummer for me, because I get so into making that sort of thing. But you have to figure out where your creative impulses are being received, and if they're not, then you just do it where they are. You have to go where people want what you have to offer, and never disparage that. It's just about the way the universe is guiding you.
So whether it's making webisodes or making a network primetime sitcom, is it more important, more rewarding just to be able to make it, or do you still kind of end up getting wrapped up in whether it's number of views or Nielsen ratings or the YouTube comments, or is it the making the product, or where's the validation?
Right. There's a few different levels to that question. It's such a great question you're asking, Sean, because it's been so elusive for me personally.
Well, I want to make sure, since you haven't talked to your therapist, that we get this out.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. When you do a network sitcom, ratings are all that matter to the powers that be. Are they all that matter to me? No. I love the moments I share with Linda Lavin on and off screen, the moments I share with Elliot Gould on and off screen, David Walton, the moments I am having with my wife when we're writing, when we're stressed out, when we have a great scene that worked when we didn't think it would for the whole week of production, those are great moments. When I was on Royal Pains, getting to make rap videos to promote the show, which never would have happened if I hadn't done Lazy Monday and gotten my first taste of that. That was so fun. Sometimes it was annoying to our showrunners, because it was like, why are you taking time from production to make your stupid rap video? Well, I'm trying to help promote the show, but I also love it. And so you're going to indulge me because I'm the star of the show and I need 5 minutes to get my shot. And then they did. But I also loved the work we got to do on Royal Pains, even though I hadn't written any of that. I loved the guys who did write it, and I loved every one of our writers. And TV is a collaborative medium, so you find great satisfaction in stuff that relates to your own ego and stuff that relates to the collaborative process. And my clown teacher had a great saying, which was, he used the word complicité, which is the sharing between two actors. You are in major, and I am in minor, and then I throw you the ball, you throw me the ball, and I am in major, and I'm so happy to have the ball, and now I pass it to you. And navigating the challenges of the ego with the joy of creation is pretty much an everyday battle, but it's a worthy one. And I'd have to say I've been winning it privately, but not without a lot of awareness and mindfulness along the road.
Well, Mark, it's great catching up with you.
You too, man. This was so much fun. I'm so glad we got to make this happen.
Me too. Thanks, Mark.
All right, man.
Last things first.
This episode of the Comics Comic Presents Last Things First was produced by Alex Brazell at Showbiz Studios. Theme music by Camille Harris and Shockwave, logo by Giggle Chick. Please check out my website, thecomicscomic.com, for more interviews, reviews, and comedy news. Become a paid subscriber at patreon.com. I'm your host, Sean L. McCarthy. Thanks for listening.
Last things first.
Last things first.